Hello everyone, it's Mallory here with All About Cats. In this week's video, we're going to be taking a look at yet another alternative to the traditional litter box. So stay tuned for a complete review of the Tidy Cats Breeze litter system. So if you've seen our video on the best cat litter on the market, you'll know that I've had the Tidy Cats Breeze for a while. So after hours of research and weeks of testing, I'm coming to you with all the details on how well the Tidy Cats Breeze litter system works and whether or not I think that it's worth it. So let's start with some background on the Tidy Cats Breeze. The Tidy Cats Breeze system is kind of positioned as a midpoint between a traditional litter box and a self-cleaning litter box. So it allows you to spend less time cleaning out the box, but it's also significantly cheaper, at least up front, than a real automatic self-cleaning litter box. So the way that the Tidy Cats Breeze litter system is set up is that it has kind of two main sections. It has this graded main tray where the litter is going to go and where your cat is going to use the litter box. And then there's going to be a drawer underneath. In that drawer is an absorbent pad, and that's where all of the liquid waste is going to be collected. So instead of scooping out clumps like you would with a traditional litter box, you're going to end up just removing any solid waste and then pulling out that drawer and discarding the pad. In order to get a sense of how all of this works, I ordered a starter kit, which involves a litter box, a litter scoop, and a bag of pads, along with a bag of the special cat litter that is used in the Tidy Cats Breeze system. So I found that assembly was pretty straightforward. You basically stack and snap everything together. Now, I found that the plastic material of the Tidy Cats Breeze felt a little bit more flimsy and flexible than that used to make some other litter boxes. For example, the Better box, which is made of this really robust ABS plastic. The Tidy Cats Breeze felt a little bit thinner and flimsier. That being said, everything came together, snapped together correctly, and I didn't notice any indications of poor construction quality when I was using the Tidy Cats Breeze. Once everything is put together, the Tidy Cats Breeze system measures 21 inches long by 17 inches wide and 11 inches deep. So it's a pretty small litter box. There's also an XL version of the Tidy Cats Breeze, which may be more appropriate for multi-cat homes and people who are looking for a larger litter box. You can also get a hooded version of the Tidy Cats Breeze, but I stuck with the original version for the sake of this review. And then once everything had been set up, it was time to put in the Breeze pellets. The pellets are made from zeolite. Instead of clumping when they come into contact with your cat's urine, these zeolite pellets allow the urine to pass through the graded tray, and then they dehydrate the solid waste that drops into the main pan. So overall, these pellets work significantly differently than do most types of cat litter, including the clumping clay that probably most of us are using. Another big difference between the Breeze pellets and a traditional clumping clay or clay cat litter is that they don't produce a lot of dust. So when I poured the pellets into the litter box, it was essentially dust-free. And once I had added the litter, it was time to put in the pad. So Tidy Cats offers a few different varieties of these pads. They're available in the original format, a multi-cat style, and they're also available in a few different scented varieties. And once I've gotten everything set up, it was time to try it out with my cats. So as I mentioned earlier, my cats were initially reluctant to use the Tidy Cats Breeze system with the 3.5 pounds of litter in it. At first they wouldn't use it, and then when they did, they seemed really uncomfortable. Once I started adding in 7 pounds of litter, however, they definitely seemed more comfortable and used it pretty readily. And so as my cats used it, I got an opportunity to experience the odor control offered by the Tidy Cats Breeze system. Overall, I found that it was quite good. I noticed that there was minimal odor coming from the litter box. I wasn't noticing a lot of ammonia smell. I also wasn't noticing a lot of fecal odors. Now, it's recommended that you change out all of the litter in the litter box every 30 days per cat, and then you're going to want to change out the pads once a week or every 3 days if you have 2 cats. I found this to be relatively accurate in my experience. It's also worth noting that Purina recommends that you purchase 1 Tidy Cats Breeze per cat plus 1 extra. So ideally I would have been using a total of 3 Tidy Cats Breeze systems in the house, but of course I wasn't able to do that. In addition to monitoring the odor control provided by the Tidy Cats Breeze, I kept an eye on the tracking and scatter situation. Purina promises that the Breeze pellets are entirely non-tracking, and I found that to be pretty accurate. These pellets are pretty big, and they're not going to really stick in your cat's paws and be tracked around the house. That being said, I definitely noticed that there was some scatter coming out of the litter box. My cats were kicking those pellets out of the box and they were gathering on the floor outside. As with most pellet litters, I found that the Tidy Cats Breeze pellets got stuck in the litter mat and were really hard to remove, and that led to a significant amount of wasted litter. So overall, it was a little bit of a messy situation, and I wasn't too happy with the amount of scatter that I was seeing from the Tidy Cats Breeze box. I think that if the box was a little bit bigger, there would be significantly less scatter happening. When it came time to change out the litter, everything went really smoothly, so I just lifted up the sides and then removed the tray and chucked everything out. It was overall a much smoother experience than dumping a heavy clumping clay litter out of a traditional litter box. I noticed that there was some buildup on the litter box over time, so I would just occasionally wipe it down whenever I noticed any mess on the sides. So overall, I found that the Tidy Cats Breeze system worked pretty well. But before I go into a complete summary of the experience, I want to talk a little bit about an alternative way to use the Tidy Cats Breeze. So over the last few months, I've noticed a lot of people saying that they use the Tidy Cats Breeze system, not with the Breeze pellets, but with wood pellets. So whether that's equine bedding or something like feline pine, a lot of people are using this system with wood pellets instead of those zeolite pellets. Of course, Tidy Cat says that you're only supposed to use it with those pellets, but a lot of people are taking this alternative route. So of course I had to try it out. So when my cats use the Breeze system with the wood pellets rather than the zeolite pellets, the moisture, instead of just dropping down onto that puppy pad, would be absorbed by the wood pellet litter. When it got wet, the wood pellet litter would disintegrate and turn into sawdust. So the cleaning process was a little bit different. I would kind of stir the litter around, shake up the litter box, and then that sawdust would drop down onto the tray underneath. When you're using this type of litter, you're not going to have to use the puppy pad. The sawdust can just drop down onto the tray and then you'll discard it. Overall, I found that the pine pellet litter worked really well with the Breeze system. There were several things about this that I liked a lot. So the first thing that I liked was that it was so much easier than using a traditional sifting litter box, which involves a lot of stacking and restacking of all of the different layers in the sifting litter box. And of course, it was significantly easier than going through and sifting with a traditional scoop to get rid of all of that sawdust. The second thing I liked about this system was how much cheaper it made the whole Breeze system compared to using those zeolite pellets. So you aren't going to have to use those puppy pads. And of course, pine pellet litter is significantly cheaper than those zeolite pellets. And overall, it makes the whole system significantly cheaper. And in terms of performance, I found that the pine pellets worked pretty much as well as the zeolite pellets. So you're going to have to change them out about once every 2 weeks per cat. So you're going to be changing them out a little bit more frequently. But I found that the odor control was good. The tracking and scatter was comparable. So there was definitely some scatter going on. But overall, the experience was comparable to that provided by the Breeze pellets included in the system. So I've briefly touched upon how using those pine pellets can reduce your costs over time, but let's go a little bit more in depth on how much the whole Breeze system cost. So the Tidy Cats Breeze system currently costs around $30. Last I checked, it costs $27.99 on Chewy. So overall, it's pretty economical for the amount of convenience that you're getting, at least up front. But again, there are going to be a couple of recurring costs that can really add up over time. Even if you have one cat and you're using just one 3.5-pound bag per month, that's going to cost about $6.99 in litter. And then you're going to tack on about $4 a month in pads. So you're already at around $11 a month on litter and pads for one cat. But if you're like me and you find that you're going to have to use 7 pounds of litter, that cost is going to increase and it's going to be closer to $18 a month. And then, of course, if you have multiple cats, that price is going to keep on going up. So if you have 3 cats, for example, you might be spending close to $60 per month on litter and pads. Again, while the Tidy Cats Breeze is significantly cheaper than a self-cleaning litter box up front, it's overall a little bit less cost-effective over time. Of course, you can significantly reduce your costs by opting for a wood pellet litter like I mentioned earlier. If you're buying a huge bag of equine bedding from a farm and ranch store, your monthly litter cost could be as low as around $2 per month. That's significantly better than what you would be getting if you were using the litter pellets that are supposed to be used with the Tidy Cats Breeze system. So overall, is the Tidy Cats Breeze system worth it? It could be worth the money if you really want to spend less time scooping out the litter box and you want something that's a bit more economical up front than a self-cleaning litter box. I know a lot of people love the Tidy Cats Breeze system and that has given them a lot of freedom. With a virtually dust-free litter, no clumps, and less time spent hunched over the litter box, it's overall a much cleaner, fresher feeling alternative to a traditional litter box. That being said, I think that the Tidy Cats Breeze system, at least if you use the original version, is a little bit too small for most cats, and it can certainly get quite expensive over time. Now, you can opt for using those wood pellets, and that could get your price down significantly, and I think that it is a really promising option for people who want to use a wood pellet litter. It's probably one of the best options in that case because it makes the experience so much easier. So that is about it for our review of the Tidy Cats Breeze litter system. If you're interested in learning more about the Tidy Cats Breeze, check out the description. There you'll find a link to the Tidy Cats Breeze on Chewy, so you can check it out for yourself. You'll also find a link to the complete written version of the review. So I hope that you found this video helpful. If you did, please go ahead and hit the thumbs up button. It helps us a lot. And if you have any comments or questions, please don't hesitate to share them in the comments. We review them all the time and we'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. If you found this video interesting or helpful and you're interested in more product reviews, buyer's guides, and information on all things cats, please go ahead and hit subscribe and click the notification bell so you get the news every time we release a new video. Thank you. Bye.